Salut! Well, today's video introduces the first of many grammar concepts that we'll have this year. Grammar is different than vocabulary in that instead of just memorizing words and phrases and knowing that they mean certain things, it usually breaks down those phrases into different parts and explains to you why they look the way that they do. Just as a heads up, anytime you see one of these purple boxes, that means that there's a blank on your notes that needs to be filled in with whatever is filled in that you see on the screen. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic is subjects and verbs, which I know from your English classes you've heard of in your own native language, but now we're going to take it a step further and talk about how it works in French. Before we can get there, though, let's make sure that we are on the same plane when we're talking about subjects and verbs in general and what you already should hopefully know in English. In English, sentences have a subject and a verb. That's what a sentence is by definition. The subject is the person or thing that is doing the action, or the person or thing that is being described. That's the only thing that gets a little tricky. So it's basically the person or thing that the whole sentence is about. The verb is the action word, like things jumping, singing, things like that. It can also be a linking word such as are or is, and in that case it's like one of those description sentences when you talk about how someone is nice or is tall. Then the word is a subject because basically that person is being tall at the time, and being is an action, believe it or not. I know it's a little strange to think of it that way, but just giving you a heads up. So what you have first here underneath number 1 is an example of how you can have subjects and verbs in an English sentence. The first sentence, Denise sings well. The subject of the sentence is Denise. She's the person that is the whole sentence is about, the person that is doing the action. The action, or the verb, is the word sings. And again, that's the sentence that, or the part of the sentence that has the action to it. The next sentence is a sentence that is one in which the person or the subject is being described. So you have Simon is blonde. Simon is the subject of the sentence. That's the person or thing that the whole sentence is about. Now in this case, there's really no action word in the sense of somebody moving around doing something, but the word is your verb because it's that linking word that is kind of linking the person to the description word. And in fact, Simon is being blonde, if you want to think of it that way. But either way, is the verb. Same exact thing happens in French. In order for yourself to have a sentence, you got to have a subject and a verb. So what they've done here on number 2 is they've used the exact same 2 sentences as the English ones above. In the first one, you still have Denise sings well, but it's in the French version. So you have Denise chante bien. Denise is still the subject. It's a person's name. That doesn't change. The verb for to sing, though, in French is chante. But they're just pointing it out to you so you kind of get used to seeing that subject-verb situation in French sentences as well. Same thing with the Simon is blonde sentence. In French, it's Simon est blond. Again, Simon is still the person or the subject of the sentence, and the word is, in this case, is still the verb, and it's a in French, which is a little different. So kind of start looking at sentences and start thinking about them in terms of subjects and verbs. Subjects are always people or things that the whole sentence is about. Verbs are a little bit tougher to spot in French because you're not used to what they look like yet, but they're usually the action word that follows that subject. Having said that, both French and English subjects are usually nouns. Remember from English class that nouns are people, places, and things. That shouldn't be new. What usually blows people's minds a little bit are pronouns. Not that you don't use pronouns all the time in the English language. Chances are you use them and you don't even think about it. But French is going to require some thought. Pronouns are those words in English like I, you, he, she, it, we, and they that replace the noun in a sentence so that you can be less repetitive. So for example, like they have here on the first English sentence, you could very easily say Denise is a friend, Denise is 15 years old, and say the word Denise twice. Or, once you've already established that the noun or the person that's the subject that we're talking about in these sentences is Denise, the second sentence you don't have to repeat her name. And instead of saying Denise is 15 years old, you can replace the subject, the noun Denise, with what we know as a pronoun. Again, those pronouns in English are I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. And again, you do this naturally. You don't think to yourself, instead of repeating the word Denise, I could probably replace it with a pronoun. What pronoun replaces female people like Denise? Oh, in the English language, it's she. I realize that. You're going to have to think through that process, though, in order to do the same thing in French, because just as you can see below the Denise is a friend sentence, you have the French version of this. Denise est une amie. Denise is a friend, and instead of saying Denise a 15 ans, Denise is 15 years old, they use the word elle. Now you can see right up here from what you should be filling in on your notes, as well as hopefully what you realized from the notes a couple nights ago when you learned elle s'appelle comment. Elle means she. So just like how in English, instead of saying Denise again, you can say she. In French, instead of saying Denise again, you can use the French version of she, which is elle. I jotted a couple more down for you up there right underneath the directions there in the purple boxes. Again, these are ones that you've kind of seen so far along the way. You've definitely seen tu in tu t'appelles comment. What is your name? Literally, again, remember, you call yourself how. As well as il s'appelle comment, he calls himself how. What is his name? And elle s'appelle comment, she calls herself how. What is her name? We may or may not have discussed vous very much yet, but go ahead and jot it down. Don't worry, we'll get there in just a second. So probably the most important part of these notes is getting down what the French words for these subject pronouns are. Again, for the most part, they use the same subject pronouns that we do. I say for the most part because there are a couple of exceptions. It's just a matter of memorizing which one is which and what they mean. So again, some of these we've seen already, some of them we haven't. Go ahead and jot them down as I explain them. The word je is the word for I. And again, that gets used instead of talking, or basically anytime you're talking about yourself. The word tu means you. Again, anytime you're talking directly to somebody else. Il means he. Elle means she. We'll come back to on in just a second. Jot it down for right now. Nous means we. Pretty basic. And vous is the one that most people have trouble with. Vous technically means you, but I really wish that you'd stop right now on your notes, and instead of writing you, I want you to actually write out here, write the word y'all. Here, I'll type it in for you right now as we go. I know it's not grammatically correct in English. Please don't tell your English teachers. But a lot of people have a better time remembering vous and what it means if they remember that it means y'all. Usually vous gets used when you're talking to a group of people. Now in English, whether I'm talking to you, one person, or you, a group of people, I'm technically supposed to use the word you. Technically though as well, if you use the word y'all, it becomes very clear that you're talking to a group of you. So I like to say that vous means y'all because the way that it's different than tu is that it's used when you're talking to a group of people, except in one situation. The reason why it says plural or formal is because if you are talking to you, one person, but that one person is somebody super important, somebody that's an adult that maybe you're not related to, that you don't know so well, a boss, a teacher, something along those lines, then you're actually not going to use tu. Even though that boss or adult or non-relative that you don't know so well is just one person, you'll actually use vous as a sign of respect. This is really hard for English speakers to understand because we really don't have this in the English language. So be careful. Vous can mean you, one person, formal, meaning important person, not related to me, adult kind of thing. Or vous can also mean y'all, as in group of you all that I am talking to. Now, ils and elles make sense in the sense that if you take il and you add an s to it, meaning there are a whole bunch of he's over there, we don't say he's, we say they. Elles make sense because, again, you take the word she, you add an s to it. If there are a whole bunch of she's over there, then you're going to say elles, not she's. You're going to see they. And then the only thing that really gets people on ils versus elles is if you have both boys and girls. So the reason why it says mixed here, it refers to if you have both boys and girls and are trying to decide between using ils or elles, the rule is if there's even one boy present in the group, it automatically goes to ils. Even if it's 5 million girls and only one boy, it's still ils. So as soon as you have mixed company, it's got to be ils. If it's all girls, it's for sure elles. If it's all boys, it's for sure ils. So be careful on that. Couple more little exceptions here that I just want to warn you about, but I don't want you to get hung up about. The first one is whenever je comes before something that begins with a vowel. They don't like two vowel sounds being next to each other in the French language. We'll talk about this a lot more as the year goes on, but every now and then you'll see je shortened to a J apostrophe. This is an apostrophe. This is not an accent mark, so be careful. Basically, they're taking the je out, and instead of making it kind of sounding like you're stuttering by saying je ai, they just blend it together, get rid of the E, and say je. We'll get to a little bit more about this happening in just a bit, but for now, just know that if you see a J apostrophe, it's the same thing as je. We already talked about this tu versus vous business. Remember, tu is used for you if you're talking to a friend, a family member, someone your own age, one person. Vous has two meanings. It's either more than one person, if you're saying y'all, or somebody that's an adult who's not a family member. And then finally, I told you I'd come back to this word on. On is another word that doesn't really have a good equivalent in English. On typically gets used when you want to talk about people in general, such as, we have a really fun French class. There's not like a specific group of folks. I mean, there is, but there isn't. It's not just me and you, we. It's a pretty big group. In your book, they like to define it as people in general, or the word for one. So like in the example that they give you here on the screen, en France, on parle français. In French, we, in general, the people that live there speak French, or in France, they, in general, the people of France speak French. It's kind of a strange one. Just roll with the punches with it. We'll practice more, and it'll become more clear as we go on. All right, I got to make sure I get this video in under 12 minutes, so real quick, let's go ahead and practice those questions here. Instead of using the word Marie in a sentence, you could definitely use a different word. Marie is a girl, so instead of using the word Marie, you could replace her name with the word Elle, just like how we did Denise earlier in the video. And then finally, the word tu means you for one person, and I went ahead and put the word informal there just because I wanted to get across the fact that it's one person that you don't have to be real fancy schmancy with. Go ahead and make sure you bring these notes to your next class and be ready to practice.